Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Some of us remember the heyday of TV advertising. Consumer brands, washing powders and the like, would constantly market themselves as new and improved. Never mind that they were less than perfect before, as long as you now understood that they're better than ever. Well, the Conservative Party is pitching itself as new and improved today as well. A Theresa May manifesto with a pretty different emphasis to past efforts. A section entitled, "We believe in the good that government can do," for example. Some will say it's just marketing, others will see it as substantive change. Certainly, the emphasis on scaling back the relative generosity displayed to the elderly is a notable shift. The point of continuity is the immigration pledge. It'll come down to tens of thousands, apparently. But we'll either look back on this day as a momentous one in the history of the Tory party or as a forgettable attempt to be everything to everyone. Well, let's start with our political editor, Nick Watt, who is in Salford, where there has been an ITV leaders debate tonight. And Nick, I mean, what do you think we learned today?
That's right, ITV leaders debate, but sadly not with the two plausible candidates for Prime Minister. But we did see plenty of Theresa May at the launch of the Tory Manifesto in Halifax, and it was interesting over there because what you were saying earlier on was that she made clear that she doesn't feel beholden to any of her predecessors, so she junked some pretty key elements of David Cameron's manifesto from 2015. So out went the tax lock, which means that there's no pledge on rates of income tax and national insurance, and in came a commitment that mean that people will have to pay the costs of domiciliary home care. Now, this is what one senior Tory said to me. Theresa May's brand in focus groups is so resilient, it can withstand some pretty radical moves that would have been suicidal 2 years ago.
Nick, while you get that earpiece in, one of the rationales for this election was, you know, Brexit and making sure she had a majority, in her view, to get through Brexit. Reading that manifesto, what do you think it tells us about her plan for that?
Theresa May has given herself an enormous amount of wriggle room on Brexit, and we see that on two fronts. So on those public finances, a senior Tory said to me, she is removing the landmines on tax that could be really difficult if we have a bumpy economic ride when those Brexit negotiations are underway. And a little notice section in the manifesto indicated that the Conservative Party would be prepared to settle its financial bill when it leaves the EU. And one Tory I was talking to said to me, the Prime Minister in the last year has embraced UKIP. She has embraced the Tory right. But what she's now showing is if she gets a big mandate on June the 8th, she is prepared to walk away from them and sign up to a deal that really would be quite unpalatable. So look, today we really were looking at how a liberated Theresa May would like to govern this country.
It was all a bit reminiscent of the 1980s. The Tory Prime Minister ventured into Labour territory and the inevitable and loud protest followed. The tightly controlled Tory election campaign machine was briefly thrown off course as the protest delayed Theresa May's arrival. Naturally, our strong and stable Prime Minister was unbothered as she took to the podium to tell the nation just who is the politician who was known as the submarine Home Secretary in her last job. Is there a philosophy we will be talking about in decades to come?
It is occasionally said that it's difficult to define what is meant by Mayism, but if you turn to page 9 of your manifesto, it says that you reject the cult of selfish individualism and you regard rigid dogma and ideology as dangerous. That sounds like a rejection of Thatcherism. So is Mayism a rejection of Thatcherism, and are you personally rejecting the many comparisons between you and Margaret Thatcher?
There is no Mayism. I know you journalists like to write about it. There is good, solid conservatism, which puts the interests of the country and the interests of ordinary working people at the heart of everything we do in government.
The assembled cabinet ministers clapped dutifully as they were put on notice to avoid any talk of an ism. But there was plenty of what George Bush Sr. memorably called the vision thing.
So join me on this journey. Come with me as I lead Britain. Strengthen my hand as I fight for Britain, and stand with me as I deliver for Britain.
By inviting her former sparring partner David Davis to introduce her, the Prime Minister showed she believes that Brexit is the defining challenge of this generation.
Our future prosperity, our place in the world, our standard of living, the opportunities we want for our children and our children's children. Each and every one depends on having the strongest possible hand as we enter those negotiations in order to get the best Brexit deal for families across this country.
My prime ministerial dressing down shows that Theresa May abhors what she described in her little blue book as the caricaturist idea of placing people on the left or the right. But it would be remiss not to identify the clear lessons we learnt about Theresa May today. She believes she's the only party leader who truly understands the cry of anguish that drove the Brexit vote. And that means being fearless in challenging traditional Tory thinking and breaking with the Cameron legacy.
Manifestos, said Churchill, should be a lighthouse, not a shop window. Today's bright light showed the Prime Minister is prepared to confront the Tory right by dropping David Cameron's pledge not to increase income tax and national insurance, though she does rule out a rise in VAT. Pensioners by downgrading the triple lock of a guaranteed 2.5% rise in the basic state pension to a less generous double lock. Middle England by saying they will be allowed to preserve no more than £100,000 of their assets to pay for social care. Big business by venturing into territory once claimed by Ed Miliband with tougher rules on corporate pay.
Theresa May chose Halifax for the launch of her manifesto to show she is confident of recapturing a seat that has not elected a Tory MP since Margaret Thatcher's heyday in 1983. Labour still enjoys support in the town, though the Prime Minister does appear to be cutting through. And have you always voted Labour? So have you decided how you'll vote?
Tory.
And what do you think of Theresa May?
I think she's doing a good job. So far, yeah, I think she's doing fine. So I give her the mandate to do it.
I was definitely for the Conservatives, but this morning, the manifesto that I heard, the pensioners, she's going to the £200 fuel allowance, she's going to knock that off for the pensioners that are higher earners. I don't think that's me. And in a way it's fair, but I didn't like the idea of it. You see, what I've heard of the Labour Party, I like their manifesto, I must say.
With protests ringing in her ears, Theresa May set off to sell her vision to parts of Britain where the Tories have been shunned for decades. Complacency is officially a banned word at Tory HQ, but senior ministers are increasingly confident that the Prime Minister appears to be on the verge of victory.
Nick, what reporting there? Well, let's speak to our policy editor now, Chris Cook. And Chris, you've read several of the manifestos, or all the manifestos of the main parties. What did you make of this one?
So I thought one of the things that's quite striking about this is that it basically doesn't do very well on one of the tests that I set for the Labour Party when we were talking about this on Tuesday. And I said that one of the things you want to get from a good manifesto is a sense of whether the people behind this have a good enough understanding of the issues, that they've done their homework so they can credibly deliver the plans. It doesn't mean it's like a fully worked out timetable. It's showing knowledge, showing you're working. And the odd thing about this manifesto, especially after the Liberal and Labour manifestos, which were very detailed, things to contest in all of them, but very detailed, there's just no working at all in this. It's actually slightly mysterious how much the social care changes are going to bring in, what their tax changes are going to do. You know, all of this stuff is completely just asserted. It's a sort of book, like, almost without numbers in it.
Well, I've given you the answers without the calculations. Thanks, Chris. That's a good point to move on to the Defence Secretary, Sir Michael Fallon. His job today was not to defend the country, but the manifesto. And I spoke to him this afternoon and asked if I had somehow missed the costings section of the document.
Well, what you missed are the kind of wild promises we saw from Labour and, you know, all that extraordinary billions more to be borrowed and so on. What you have seen today are commitments to spend more in two areas. We're already spending more, as you know, on the National Health Service. We're spending more on defence. But today we announced £4 billion more for schools, and we've made clear where that's coming from. And we've announced additional resources for social care. For the first time, to ease the pressure on the NHS.
I'm so sorry. You've also announced additional resources for the industrial strategy and for R&D spending, haven't you?
We have, but the two big areas today are schools and social care.
And so the costings document that sets out the costs and whether it is all going to work, is that coming later, or did I miss it, or is it online somewhere?
No, you haven't missed it. Some of these things, of course, will depend on the level. For example, we will consult on the level of the means test, by which wealthier people will be asked to surrender the winter fuel allowance. So some of the detail is still to be consulted on, as you'd expect.
OK. On the immigration pledge to get immigration down, have you costed that one? Has someone done some work and said this is how much it will cost the Exchequer? Because my understanding is the Office for Budget Responsibility thinks cutting migration does cost the Exchequer. Have you guys costed that proposal?
There's been various academic work done on the cost of immigration. We've made it clear that we accept there is a cost, and we want to make sure that British companies do contribute to the training of British workers when they want to fill that post. And we've set out the details of that.
Sorry to interrupt. I know you haven't much time. How much is it going to cost the Exchequer to get immigration down by 2/3 from its current level?
Well, we haven't set out a formulation of the we haven't set out the formulation of how much it'll reduce by each year. What we've set out is our ambition to continue to bear down on immigration.
It is a policy to get immigration down to tens of thousands, isn't it, or is it not?
It's our ambition to get it down to tens of thousands.
Is it a policy to get immigration? I'm so sorry. Is it not a policy to get immigration down?
It's an ambition, and we've had it in previous manifestos.
Oh, hang on. What's the difference between an ambition and a policy? I mean, you've had it in previous manifestos, and you've palpably not delivered it. So I had assumed by repeating it that there was some meaning to it this time.
Well, it's our aim to continue to bear down on immigration. And, of course, for the first time, this is going to become easier as we leave the European Union. There will be no further entitlement to freedom of movement. At the moment, it's unlimited. Anybody in Bulgaria or Lithuania can up sticks and come
we know
here.
you were nowhere near it, even on the overseas people. Even if we disregarded all the EU immigrants, you were nowhere near it. Right, so it is something we can expect you to deliver. It is an aim, and it is an aim, and you are going to deliver it, correct?
It is an aim, and we intend to continue to aim to reduce the level of immigration as we've set out.
So, Michael, this is sounding a little bit weak, if I may say. So, I thought your policy was to get immigration down to the tens of thousands. It sounds like it isn't your policy at all.
It is. It's our aim. I've said that. It's in our manifesto.
Well, if you've said it, you've just now repeated. Right. Okay.
And we will get it done.
Have you costed that proposal? That's my point. You've blamed Labour for not costing all theirs. Now, have you costed that proposal? Because the OBR says it will cost money.
Well, you need to cost proposals where you're proposing to spend billions of pounds in implementing
But this is going to cost billions of pounds.
No, it isn't going to cost billions of pounds.
But that's what the OBR says. But how do you know it's not going to if you haven't costed it?
The OBR doesn't say it's going to cost billions of pounds, with great respect. Now, if you're going to nationalise an industry, clearly there's going to be an enormous cost to that, and we're entitled to ask what that cost is.
OBR,
we are going to start controlling, managing properly. We're going to manage properly the number of people coming into this country.
The OBR models different migration scenarios, and there are billions of pounds of national income difference between those models, and that translates to billions of pounds of Exchequer difference between those different migration assumptions. But I put it again to you. Have you costed the proposal to get immigration down by 2/3 from its current level?
No, we've not costed, because we don't know specifically what year we're going to reach that point of reducing to exactly tens of thousands. But we've set out today, and you keep interrupting me, we've set out today the additional charge we're going to impose on British companies when they are employing other workers, where British people could be taking those jobs. So we will be ensuring that there is some payment towards those costs.
It sounds like a pledge made in the morning is turned into a somewhat vague aim that doesn't need costing by the afternoon. Could we move on to another area, the industrial strategy? Because Theresa May said it is the party's aim to make us more prosperous. No one's going to quibble with that. The thing that is going to do that is the industrial strategy. Now, can you just in a sentence say what the industrial strategy is? You have a few pages on it. I was troubled to sort of myself boil it down to what is at the centre of it. What do you see as the heart of the industrial strategy? Well,
we've set out, actually, our industrial strategy in other documents, and we've been consulting on it. It's a policy of reviving our industries, particularly in regions outside London, and ensuring we have the skills base and the focus on the new technologies that will strengthen our economy and ensure that we continue to earn our place in the world. And it covers everything from shipbuilding to investment in digital, and a revival through our city deals of the relationship between central government and the mayors in the regions.
What is the actual policy, though? You've outlined the objective, and I understand the objective. What is the tool that is going to revive, without very much money, because you've said it's not going to be much money, what is the tool that is going to actually deliver a new industrial strategy, or new industries, or revived industries in those areas?
Well, one of the principal tools is there's the relationship, as I said, between central government and local government. For the first time, empowering particularly the mayors in their regions, but also the cities of our country, empowering them with local budgets so that they can prioritise in their own areas and make the choices that are needed between improving the infrastructure, between improving the human capital, and to decide which of the industries they want to see grow in their particular areas and to focus on them. Now, that work is already underway. We're consulting on the detail, but this is built around investment in the new technologies, a revival of manufacturing, and an unerring emphasis on skills.
OK. Can I ask you, changing the subject, would you say we've had strong and stable government for the last 2 years, between this election and the last election?
Well, we've had a relatively small majority in Parliament, and we've had to deal with the aftermath of the referendum result. Now, we need to get through implementing the referendum, and we need to get on beyond Brexit to build a stronger and fairer Britain. And that is why we need a stronger and more stable government for Theresa May to deal with both those challenges.
I think most people looking back over the last couple of years would consider it among the two most unstable years since the Second World War in the history of this country. And I just wonder why we should believe you when you say you're going to be strong and stable this time, as opposed to the coalition of chaos or whatever your slogan is, when you used the same formulation only 2 years ago before inaugurating two of the most unstable years that anyone can remember.
Well, Theresa May made clear today, when she launched the manifesto, that the challenge of negotiating a successful exit from the European Union is one of the biggest and most difficult things any government is doing in this country since the Second World War. And to do that, you do need stable leadership, you do need strong government back here at home, and that is why she is requesting this fresh mandate from the British people that will enable her not just to do that, but to go beyond Brexit and build a stronger, fairer Britain that can earn its place in the world.
Sir Michael Fallon, thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.